Welcome to the first episode of the Husky Pawscast, where we explore the stories, achievements, and exciting events happening in our community and school district. I'm Norm Stewart, Superintendent of the Marcian School District, and your host for today's episode. Whether you're a student, parent, staff member, or community partner, this podcast is here to keep you informed and connected to the heart of our district. Thanks for tuning in, and let's dive into today's topic. Today's topic is our student wellness survey. On this episode, the Husky Pawscast, we're discussing the importance of the student wellness survey that we administer to all middle and high school students with parental consent. This survey helps us better understand our students' needs and provides critical data that allows us to secure funding through grants for services that benefit our students, such as our school nurse, our mental health counseling services, and even our after-school program. And today we have a special guest. Today I'm excited and thrilled to have Marcian High School senior and student leader of Bronco Bold, Ashlyn Porter, with us. We'll be discussing the Marcian Student Survey and the program she's involved with. And I'm excited to hear her insights on how our data impacts our students, the school programs, and community. Welcome to the Husky Pawscast, Ashlyn. And it's great to have you here.
Thank you.
Well, can you please, as far as just tell everyone about yourself and what programs that you're involved with?
So I'm a senior at Marcian High School. I've been going here since my sophomore year, and I'm a varsity athlete. I'm in Bronco Bold, and I'm in Sources of Strength, just to name a couple.
Awesome. That's great. What have you seen to be some of the main issues or problems that are facing your fellow students?
I think, the first one I would think of is like stress, relating to social, school, academics, anything that you want to talk about, pretty much stress. Yeah, I think that's good. Yeah.
Okay. No, stress is definitely one of those key factors that really impact everyone, and especially our student body. When we've administered this survey previously, we've administered it 3 other times. When we first administered it, we saw outcomes from the students where we interviewed or surveyed all middle and high school students, and it showed that depression was another issue, and that can quickly even tie into the stress. And so at that point, it showed that 66% of our middle and high school students were suffering from moderate to severe depression. And that's where we really kind of focused and tried to, as a district, to focus on campaigns to address those main issues. Luckily, when we re-administered it the next year, those depression rates came down to 30%. And then when we re-administered the survey, it came down to 24% this last school year. And knowing that stress and depression are definitely issues that are key to your fellow students, and how do you see that impacting your other students? What do you see from them where that stress really, or possibly even the depression, how do you see that impacting them?
I think it affects how they do in school and how they would do in sports, or even can go into their relationships. And just, it can go, there's lots of different ways, and different people have different scenarios in which they deal with it.
Okay. As a senior, I mean, you're in your last year. And knowing that this data that we're trying to gather, we're trying to do positive things with it. Why do you think it's important for the students to take this survey so that we have that data and we know where we should be focusing our attention?
Yeah, exactly, the data and where we should. It tells us where we need to work on or what might be more beneficial for certain students, or areas that we can really this is what we want to talk about, this is what we want to focus on, this is what we can really help with, and just the wide majority in helping out.
As a student leader, how do you feel about the fact that the input that you and the other students who take the survey, all that input that you give through that survey helps really direct the programs that we're trying to develop to try to meet those needs? So the fact that you are having a direct impact on what we're trying to do. How does that make you feel as a student? Have you heard anything from your fellow students?
Um, Personally, I feel like it's important for me to say what it like to help out. If I can have a voice in anything, then I should be willing to use that voice towards helping the student body or the community, however I can reach out. And I like to think that I can talk to the students at the school and they would feel comfortable just reaching out and saying whatever they want and just being there for each other and having that kind of community.
As a student leader, being part of Bronco Bold and Sources of Strength, um, can you think back and as far as we've interacted or as that information has been pushed out to you as student leaders, what was your reaction when you heard that the depression rates, for example, were at 66% of all middle and high school students in our district, and that now they've come down to 24% according to the survey? What kind of reaction did that give you, and what reaction do you have about that now?
I think it made me realize that what I am doing and helping those organizations and being a part of it, it does help other students. And I don't know. What was the second half of that question?
Well, as far as your reaction when you see that the depression rates went from 66% down to 24% now, with the most recent survey that we administered in January, what is your reaction in regards to that, and how do you think your classmates are you seeing any difference in regards to that?
Yeah. I think it's good, obviously,
Okay.
that the numbers went down.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's the main thing.
Yeah, right.
Like,
Do you think the survey, that the fact that we're seeing the numbers decrease, do you think that shows that what we're trying to do with some of our special programs, like the programs you're in, that they're actually helping?
yeah. And I think the more that the students talk about it, and I think the more that we get the word out there that there are these programs that are helping this, is really good too.
Okay. As part of this survey, it's always important that the data is kept anonymous, and that no one would be able to identify how a specific student answered. How would you explain to your fellow students that their answers to the survey are completely anonymous, and that we couldn't tell that a specific person gave a specific answer?
My initial thought to that is like, no one's gonna come into class and pull you out of class or find you in the hallway and be like, oh, well, why did you say this on their test? Or what were you thinking? Or like yours doesn't, any array of what they might come up and say you, that's not gonna happen. They don't know it's you, and just like to be like honest with it.
And that's where it is really important to try to answer those things honestly,
Mm-hmm.
because that's how we're going to get that feedback and really try to address those specific problems and issues, and understand the positive things too that are going on.
Yeah.
So that's important. Have you noticed any changes or new programs at school that might have come from the results of the survey?
I haven't had to use any of the programs personally, but I have heard of other kids using programs and it being very beneficial to them. And I think it makes me feel good that we have those programs, even though I'm not the one that's had to use them.
Okay.
Or using them.
Yeah, no, that's great. That's helpful. From your perspective, how do you think the survey helps the school and the community work together to support students?
I think it makes us aware that mental health is real and that it's something that's being talked about more and something that we can focus on and improving for just general welfare of anyone in the community.
Okay. And how do you see the programs that you're involved in, and that you're a leader in, how do you see Bronco Bold and the Sources of Strength and the Wellness Survey all working together to to meet the needs? How do you see those working together?
Well, hopefully, with the data from the wellness survey, we can take these programs and focus on those points that we get that might not be our strongest, or even like bring out our positives that, hey, we're really good at this, or hey, we need help on this, and just using those to bring up like the students to be more aware of all of it.
Okay. And you were just part of a program that I believe that you led or helped lead within the last week or so, as far as with suicide prevention.
Yep.
Is there anything that, as far as knowing that a lot of times that depression can carry over, that is there anything you would like to say about the events that you did or the activities that you did here, and how you shared that with the other student body, with your group, shared it with everyone?
Yeah, I liked that we became aware of it, and I know I hadn't like really focused on Suicide Prevention Week. Like, I probably didn't even know what day it was. But now that we have like an actual event talking about it, and that people are realizing the fact, and then we all come together, and especially with like the Chalk the Walk event that we did, it was my favorite probably. And just to see the growth from last year to this year on how many students that came out for that, it was really nice to feel like I was a part of something that did that.
And so, knowing that event grew and you're seeing more participation and involvement as you're leaving as a senior at the end of this year, how do you see that same enthusiasm being pushed down to the students who are going to follow you? How do you see that same message continuing to try to grow as you graduate and your other seniors who are part of the programs also graduate? How do you see that being pushed and kind of a group to follow you?
Yeah. Well, I just think because I wasn't aware of it as a young underclassman, and having the underclassmen now being a part of it, I think that's really important on bringing up new kids to be a part of something bigger, because I didn't have that. And now that they are able to see that there's a possibility to lead, and it's a possibility to help out and have these events, that it's a more important and it's bigger now. Great.
Well, as we're looking at the survey, we're trying to come back and administer this survey this fall. We're in a position where we need to have, as I mentioned at the very beginning, parental consent in order to have students take the survey, which means that each parent needs to actually sign the form to say yes. And without that, we can't get that data that we need to be able to write grants, because the data in Hawaii County is very limited. And so this is actual data from our students that we have right now, and trying to identify what those issues are, what are the positives, what are the negatives, and how can we address those things. But it really takes the parents to sign off on that, and we need to have 60% of all of our middle and high school students, parents say yes in order to be able to validate that information. And so we're really trying to push and to get parents on board so that we can get that data and continue to bring in money, because in the last few years we've been able to bring in over $1 million in grants to be able to continue the services that we have. So knowing that, what would you say to parents to encourage them to say yes to being able to allow your fellow students, whether they're high school or even middle school, to be able to take that survey?
Again, mental health is real and it's being talked about more, and I think it's important that we become aware of it. And I think that parents are very influential to the students. And if parents are willing to talk about it, or willing to be like, hey, you should take this test, I will let you take this survey, and it will help us greater in a bigger picture and help us out.
Okay. And thank you for as far as that message to the parents, because it is for those services that we have, and we are very fortunate as a rural school district to be able to have some of the programs that we have, even our after-school program. Everything really relates to having data that we can include when we write those grants. So that's incredibly important, and I hope that the parents will sign off on that so we can start administering that survey. We're sending out information via mailers. We'll have information available during parent-teacher conferences. October 11th is our set deadline to try to have that 60% or greater for those parents to hopefully say yes, to allow us to provide that survey. That survey is available for anyone to review and be able to see what questions that we're asking, because we want complete transparency in regards to that. Well, is there anything, knowing that we're coming to an end of this Husky Pawscast, is there any message that you would like to send out to your fellow students or to the parents in regards to the programs that you're part of, or anything that any messages that you think would be important to relay?
I think just take the survey. Please take the survey. It'll help so much in getting the data and helping the programs figure out what to do and events to have, and focusing on stuff that we might need help with, and just being aware of what the programs are doing too, and reaching out and helping.
All right. Well, thank you. It's a great message, and I again thank you so much for being our guest on our first episode of the Husky Pawscast.
Thanks for having me.
Very excited, and so this concludes today's Husky Pawscast, and hope that everyone has a great and wonderful day. And remember, it's always important to say, "Go Huskies."